Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, basically based off from Kirby's Return to Dreamland back on the Nintendo Wii. So, last time, we have essentially managed to show you guys the final 5 sub-games, which are 3 familiar ones, alongside with 2 brand new sub-games that was actually introduced in the forms within the deluxe version of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which there are Magoland's Tone Trackers, and especially noticeable with Booming Blasters, which I would still say that Booming Blasters is pretty fun though. Now as a result for that particular matter though, we did somehow manage to also realize that we did somehow manage to check out not only Magoland Tour, but also during the forms of that specific matter, we already did done one attempt during the forms of Samurai Kirby 100, and because of that, we ended up in the forms within the bottom list at the moment, but luckily though, I should probably able to save that particular topic until when it gets to the point until on Wednesday, potentially, because obviously about the fact, no matter what though, is that, well, for those of you probably wondering, is about the fact that today's date, of course, the OSD, the 7th of August today, in this case in 2023 today. I think I should probably save that particular news and conversations until whenever we get the video started. So because of this though, yeah, speaking of which though, today for this video is about the fact that we'll be able to actually continue doing the forms of Merry Magoland to able to actually once again completely, well, just trying to complete as many of those missions as much as possible. So, relatively speaking though, about the fact that, as you can tell, we did somehow manage to speak to our manager Magoland right here, because obviously we need to talk to him for about 5 times, and then once you've done so already, then you would able to actually complete that mission no problem. And it's just a matter of the fact that every time, I was able to try to find something around here, because I think another one of those missions I could possibly try to think about. And that's what appears to be about the fact that you need to find this very well hidden Magoland sticker somewhere. So I think it's like placed quite randomly at one form or another, even though mind you is about the fact that it's been about, I would say it's been about 3 days ago since I actually have last played this for sure, especially noticeable because considerably that recently that Ray the Flying Squirrel, he's now going to be working on Super Mario RPG for weekends from now on, especially noticeable because like we said this before, that Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania Let's Play continuation is probably going to get delayed at some point until next month, until during this September. Because of that though, that Silver is not ready for Master Mode just yet. So as you can tell, we're going back into Egg Catcher again, except now that as you can tell, that in addition to able to completely done with the forms of wearing King Dedede mask for that particular sub-game, but also about the fact that we did somehow manage to complete every single missions during the forms of Egg Catcher. Well, I would say that, but because of that though, we're still not done with the game yet, especially noticeable because relatively speaking, we're going to be going back into Bomb Rally again, except this time we're now going to be wearing Nightmare Wizard Mask. So as a result, because of one of those missions, it does require us to able to wear that specific mask in mind. So anywho though, something's worth noting for when it comes to the forms of today's discussion, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, as far as what Ray the Flying Squirrel has already mentioned about this ever since in Super Mario RPG Let's Play so far, that obviously about the fact that we're expecting to able to get ourselves the next tour coming up for Mario Kart Tour in around 2 days time, which as a result, it does reveal the name, by the way, of the actual tour is it going to be. And relatively speaking though, despite the fact that I did somehow failed right there, but that's okay, because obviously we can able to skip this particular thing right there, and as a result we can able to actually complete one of the missions right here, and we can able to actually try this again, except now that this is one of the points about the fact that, you know what's my least favorite missions in the whole mode are? Well, specifically, it's all about winning those sub-games consecutively 2 times in a row. And what's even worse is that when it gets to the later point, you have to do it 3 more times. Like, as a result, if you lose at any point, you lose that win streak. So because of that though, yeah, it gets a bit irritating, and especially noticeable, it requires so much repetition, on top of all that particular points with the annoying handicaps, with all that particular computer players in mind, and on top of that, until when it gets to the point once we get into the forms of not only for this right here, but also with the forms of Crackety Hack, and especially noticeable with Samurai Kirby, which that's the perfect example of why I'm not going to touch upon Samurai Kirby for a while, but that's just mainly because about the fact that once we do manage able to complete more of the missions entirely, and also in addition to that, you still need to able to actually grind as many of those stamps as possible once you reach your number 50 stamp badge or stamp card, as far as what I meant to say. And because of that though, the more you replay this multiple times, basically you can guarantee to able to get yourselves more stamps for your liking. So anywho though, so yeah, in terms of the forms of what the name of the tours are going to be for Mario Kart Tour's next tour, specifically 102nd Tour, and as a result, it's going to call it Vacation Tour. But that's just because we're still in summer after all, so it makes a little bit more sense, right? And of course, about the fact that as far as what Ray has already explained about this already, that as we expected, Squeaky Clean Sprint is going to be on there, which is not too surprising as we've already established that earlier. But, in regards to such though, in terms of content-wise, aside from the fact that we're eventually getting ourselves the 7th and the final Koopaling Me Racing suit, which as it turns out is Wendy after all, in addition to that, about the fact that we're expected able to get ourselves a new driver, which is another color-themed character as far as this is concerned, except this time around though, we're expected able to get ourselves Green Birdo. So as a result, that might actually wraps up everything for the sake of the forms of every single color scheme for Birdo. So because of that, despite the fact that we've already technically got all of those different color variations of Birdo already, thanks to the forms of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe already. So because of that though, and I get the horrible feeling is that something tells me it's once again going to be locked out behind the stupid tier system, which I still really hate this system so much. And on top of all that stuff though, in terms of the forms of other content they'll bring, in terms of cards wise, they're able to actually bring a card based on a dolphin that bears resemblance to the Dolphin Dasher and Turbo Dolphin. And on top of that, they're going to be bringing ourselves Rattle Purple, and also I just realized that jingle sounds familiar, because as far as I'm aware, that's the exact same sound effect if you dare manage to find the hidden Megalore symbol or Megalore item, as far as what I meant to say. That sound effect is actually heavily borrowed from when you try to able to insert the disc in on Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii, and basically you get yourselves a nice little jingle before you get the game started. So even that note, that's actually a pretty cool touch. So either way, at the very least we did somehow manage to complete one of those missions entirely. So anyway, something's worth noting for, they're also going to be bringing in Goo Goo Gold, and on top of that, Green Turbo Bodo cards, and that's about it basically. Now in terms of gliders though, they were able to actually bring a glider based on a bar of soap. Okay, that's actually interesting. And on top of that, Dolphin Great Sail. So because of that, in terms of everything else though, I think that's as far as we can able to say about this for the most part. So either way though, that's saying something. Oh, and another thing too is about the fact that, do you guys even remember the very moment about the fact that when it comes to the forms of that iconic Pixar short, that's you know, with the actual Pixar short called Tim Toy? Well, apparently though, that particular short has been out for about, I would say, since 35 years since when it first came out, and yeah, time really does fly, doesn't it? Especially considerably about that particular point where it did somehow win an Oscar award during that specific period, which, back in the day, in 1988, the same year as when Oliver and Company roll around, and on top of that with any other films entirely as well, it was actually a pretty good, big deal when it comes to able to actually claim something pure genius when it comes to that particular point where, although despite the fact that I've never actually seen Tin Toy for a long time, aside from the fact that the only time I only seen a brief footage on Tin Toy, that's what appears to be a documentary about the forms of the story behind Toy Story, of how that film was first created, back in the forms of in 1995 and all that stuff. But relatively speaking, though, I felt it was quite intriguing to able to actually look back on that particular short, for that matter. So, yeah, that's what I really think about it. So, oh, and another thing too is about the fact that, do you guys even remember that Ray and I believe also Sonic as well have already predicted about that particular point that we might able to actually get ourselves the next Pokemon Presents Direct? Well, as it turns out recently, it's been confirmed. And, as it turns out, it's going to be launching until tomorrow. So because of that, though, I have no idea what certain announcements they'll bring in terms of the forms of the Pokemon Presents presentation. But I'm sure enough, though, we'll find out more details about that, until specifically I'm also able to mention more about it during at some point until on Wednesday, potentially, except with tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, though, unfortunately, though, is about the fact that, from what I've noticed, Sonic did somehow suffer a sick bug, and as a result, that, unfortunately, Sonic Frontiers will be delayed again, except this time that Sonic did somehow manage to got himself a sickness bug. So, from now on, though, we're just gonna have to mainly focusing on this, alongside with the forms of Super Mario RPG for now on, though, because as a result, we just want to get these games finished before we move on to the next set of Let's Plays to come. So, anyway, I guess that's that. So, I suppose we can now able to actually move on back onto, let's just say, Megalord's tone trackers, because something tells me about the fact that I do need to able to get a certain amount of gold tones in level 2 most likely, so I need to reach for about 7. So, despite the fact that sometimes I will admit though right away, getting the magic tones, specifically the gold ones most likely, can be felt a bit tricky at times, especially noticeable with all these computer players are always super duper quick about it. And what's even interesting for me though is the fact that I did somehow manage able to get 21 points on level 3 on the first attempt, which I think is very surprising, because considering about that particular point where, as I said before, this is where the game starts to get, well, specifically the majority of Merry Megaland, where it comes to full completion on the other hand, this is where it took me a lot of hours, and even worse, couple of minutes when it comes to able to try to do it successfully, because, relatively speaking though, again, I should probably point things out right away, and doing it specifically until on Friday most likely, I'm gonna have to able to try to configure my settings quickly into like, well, again, I probably should able to mention more about the forms of the hint system, or hints and tips, until specifically when it gets to the point until on Friday, or potentially speaking on Wednesday potentially, so. But I digress. So, it looks like we're actually not doing too bad, potentially speaking, although right before I say that, then sometimes though, I might also keep on getting myself screwed over by certain computer players. But it doesn't seem to be all that being the case, so either way, we did somehow succeed for that matter, so. Again, I apologize for my commentary because a little bit still to that point, but that's just because, again, it's been about 3 days ago since I've last played this, so, which is especially noticeable about that particular point where, relatively speaking, as I said before, I just want to get this game finished before we move on to the next Kirby Let's Play, specifically, not only for the continuation of the main Kirby games, but it's also worth noting for that we're definitely going to able to actually tackle through certain, spin-offs every once in a while. So either way, so now it's going to get on to the forms of Magoland Tour, but this time we're going to be able to tackle for not only level 2, but also for level 3 as well. Although, if you don't be bothered able to try to go for the actual sub-games as you were previously attempted to, well, luckily you can able to actually shuffle them around, so just in case you can able to actually go for those sub-games a little bit more comfortable. So because of that though, you see what I mean whenever we do manage to able to tackle for level 3 portion of this specific, you know what I'm saying, Magoland Tour. Now, as far as I'm aware, there are only 2 missions that we can only seem to able to do when it comes to the forms of trying to experience the main mode, which is specifically the main adventure for Kirby's Return to Dreamland itself. And that's what appears to be about the fact that you need to wear a specific mask. In addition to that, use one of those souvenir items once, and you can only do it for 1 level and that's it. So, yeah, it might be pretty easy to do, especially noticeable if you try to focus on just only 1 level, which I'm about to do that later, because obviously about the fact I need able to try my best to able to not only win the forms of certain portions of the forms of certain sub-games for that matter, but also about the fact that we can able to exponentially try to able to actually complete every single missions with any other sub-games. So, but then again, as I said before, sometimes it might take a very long time to able to get to this specific point, especially noticeable because again, sometimes the difficulty on certain missions are a bit too much for my liking. So either way, that pretty much takes care of every single missions in Magoland Tome Trackers. So that should be pretty swell. And it looks like we're going back to Egg Catcher again, which I'm not exactly the best player when it comes to Egg Catcher itself. Oh, and by the way, if you manage to experience this particular sub-game in multiplayer, or compete against with computer players, you're able to experience a 4-player split screen. So even then, that's something's worth noting for, despite the fact that I somehow lost very easily. So either way. And it looks like about the fact that we somehow ended up with a tie with Meta Knight for 3rd place. And it looks like I get the horrible feeling that, certain opponents might definitely catch up. So either way though, if I do failed on this though, then I can simply just try again. So either way though, that's what I mean about the fact that there's going to be a lot of, you know, repetition when it comes to likely if you keep on failing for a certain amount of stuff as far as you might think about it. But either way though, that's as far as I can usually say about this. Now in terms of everything else I could possibly explain about this as well, that recently about the fact that there's a film called Christopher Robin, you know, with that particular Disney movie that's been out for about 5 years ago now. Well, yeah, apparently that film has been out for 5 years ago. So while looking back on it though, I thought it was alright. I mean, it's not the best, but I will say though, it is a definitely a little bit more tolerable when it comes to the forms of some live-action Disney movies and stuff like that. I mean, I think I will say that Christopher Robin, as far as the film itself, is definitely a little bit more better than the forms of how it does it on the most recent live-action movies these days, especially with all that, you know, they keep on choosing certain films based off from the Renaissance era, and believe it or not though, it messes up the actual nostalgia. So because of that though, there's not much to explain about any of these things. And something tells me I'm not exactly in a current lead, so... However, if you do manage to able to miss the target, well, luckily it doesn't go completely into too bad scenario, so either way, yeah, it feels like I'm not gonna catch up. So either way though, at the very least though, I did somehow manage to able to complete one of those missions, which I suppose that's a good thing. So we're not gonna able to cut to the point into checkerboard chase, because I mean, let's face it though, if, you know, King DDD wins, then obviously I will failed the actual level 2 scenario for the likes of the forms of Magoland Tour. So either way though, I suppose we'll have to able to keep trying. So, but at least on the upside is though, is that one of those missions has already been completed, luckily. So at the very least, that's that. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and try again, and hopefully we're able to do a much more successful attempt, because again, sometimes though, you never know of what exactly is to come. So either way, let's just go ahead and do this. So, alright, crackety hack. Okay, let's give this sub-game another chance. So, just to ensure about the fact that, well, eventually when it gets to the point until later on though, that, as I said before, that's what certain missions gets really tough. And in fact, I'm not very great at the forms of the ending portion, because for whatever reason, I'm pretty much used to it, the forms of, you know what I mean, with the Megatone Punch on Kirby Superstar a lot more, just because of all that accuracy I was pretty good at, but not so much the forms of Crackety Hack on the other hand, which I have no words able to think about it, but regardless of everything else though, I did somehow still win regardless, so... And something tells me about the fact that we're going back into Egg Catcher again. So, yeah, that wasn't too surprising. Especially that, like I said before, I'm not exactly a huge master when it comes to forms of trying to do Egg Catcher as far as the actual sub-game is concerned. Because, gee, no wonder why we're actually doing pretty bad results when it comes to the forms of being NES Remakes 2, on the other hand. So, but I did pretty decently this time around though, but still. But anyway though, yeah, no matter what though, there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that there's going to be 2 other Mii Racing suits about to come for the likes of in Mario Kart Tour's next tour, specifically when it gets to the point until after, you know, the vacation tour. And something tells me about the fact that it's going to be on 103rd tour they're about to be able to get into when it comes to the next Mii Racing suit. If I recall correctly, one of them is actually based around the forms of, let's just say, yet another color scheme for the actual the regular Mii Racing suit colors, but there's also a very well obscured silhouette or something like that. I don't know what this is though, but I'm guessing I get the strong sense of feeling it might be something related to a sea critter or something like that. It's so hard to tell, especially noticeable because, I will admit though right away, trying to guess the forms of certain Mii Racing suits is actually a lot difficult because of the actual silhouette system. So because of that though, at least I know some of them, alright? Like for instance, we've already experienced Toadette's Mii Racing suit, and also during the forms of in the actual Sunshine Tour, that I've already predicted at the particular point that, yeah, we definitely getting ourselves Windy Mii Racing suit, so at least that's that, as well as the forms of the Waluigi Mii Racing suit, as well as Monty Mole, and pretty much everything else for that doubt. So either way, now as far as I'm aware as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that it's been 10 years ago since Rabbids Invasion TV series has been released. So as a result, while looking back in the forms of the actual series, after 10 years since when it first came out, I haven't watched this series since, especially noticeable because I'm pretty much used to, like, seeing Rabbids in action for the likes of the forms of a Mario crossover game, especially noticeable because considering about that particular point where, in the next couple of days, we're expecting to be able to get ourselves Rayman in the Phantom Show at some point by the end of August, which I'm super excited about. Because especially noticeable that particular point where it's been like almost 15 years ago since when Rayman interacts with the Rabbids ever since in Rayman Raving Rabbids TV Party. At least back in the forms of it not only on the Nintendo Wii, but also on the Nintendo DS as well. Although technically the forms of Rayman Legends' first announcement back in the forms of in 2011 or 2012 earliest doesn't count. Especially noticeable because I believe that idea has been completely scrapped, well, back in the day as it is. So, but either way, though, it's actually pretty cool that, you know, despite the fact that you can only select up to, like, well, aside from Rayman, of course, but you can only select up to 2 other characters based off of the main game, which there are Rabbid Mario and Rabbid Peach, because I can totally see why that Rabbid Peach is definitely the most popular character choice when it comes to able to actually being invited for certain DLCs, so, which is especially noticeable during the forms of in, not only the original Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, that Rabbid Peach will be invited during the forms of in Donkey Kong Adventure DLC, but also during the forms of in one of those Just Dance games, that one of those, songs in particular is actually Naughty Girl or something like that, Rabbid Peach was actually a part of that song. Well, the catch is though, it's only on the Nintendo Switch version because I can totally see why. That's because obviously that both Microsoft and Sony doesn't seem able to actually bring us into some of these exclusive visual identity or something like that. So anyway, so before we continue things on during the forms of in Merry Magoland, as you can tell, we're about to head back into the forms of the regular story mode, specifically the normal mode for approximately the final time, but that's just because I just want to get these missions out of the way. And as you can see, we actually come across that familiar mechanic, at least ever since during the forms of it, not only in Kirby Triple Deluxe, but also with the forms of Planet Robobot, and especially noticeable with any other New Super Mario Bros. Games. Well, specifically, New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, as well as New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS, and even the upcoming game, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, that you get yourselves the actual item inventory spot. And basically, in order able to actually activate certain items, as you can tell, basically it's about the fact that we need to able to hold down the X button, and then once you hold down the X button, as I said before, you can only select up to 5 different items, which there are random compatibility, especially noticeable with the forms of the cannon, and on top of that with the actual fizzy bottle or soda bottle, and on top of that with the maximum tomato, and on top of that with the forms of the actual balloon bomb. So as a result for that particular matter though, it gives you a lot of advantage when it comes to able to try to save those up for the sake of trying to able to go for the majority of the extra mode, or even in some cases though, if you're having some certain struggles with the forms of certain boss fights, not only for the likes of the forms of the arena, but also until eventually on the true arena, then that might be the primal reason for that. So, and this is what happens right there if you manage to able to ignore that particular super enemy, which I think this is going to be the only time I'm only going to do this, because once we get to the forms of the extra mode playthrough, then I'm sure enough that might be seems the case. Once we're able to completely done with every single part, journey forms within Merry Magoland for sure. Because believe me, as I said before, sometimes certain missions might take a bit while, and especially noticeable at that particular point about the fact that once we get to the hardest missions, I have to do a lot. I mean, a lot of edits to do, which is especially noticeable during that specific point where, as I said before, if you really want to see what the true reward you might get for the sake of the forms of completing Merry Magoland, well, I'm probably not going to mention about this right now, because even then though, you probably already know what's to come, so yeah, at the very least we can able to now complete not only one, but two missions based off on the forms of this story mode, so that should be all pretty swell. So now let's go ahead and head back onto Merry Magoland right now, so just to ensure about the fact that we can now able to actually just to, well, get the actual missions completed right here. So, self-explanatory for the most part, especially noticeable if you do manage to able to unlock certain masks, and especially noticeable if you use one of those souvenir items, then by all means you can now able to actually do something like this. So, anyway, so now let's go ahead and move on to level 3 this time for the sake of the forms of Magoland Tour. Now, I'm actually going to be keep on going back because I'm probably not going to do Samurai Kirby on that particular level in mind, but that's just because I am, well, much like the forms of Egg Catcher, I am still not great at the forms of Samurai Kirby, and as I said before, it gets way too anxious at points, especially noticeable about the particular point where, again, once we get to the forms of the other content for Merry Magoland, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, and as far as I'm aware, back into the forms of that particular topic about Rabbids Invasion TV series, as I said before, it's been ages since I actually have last seen this particular series in mind, but that's just because about the fact that, well, like I said before, I'm now into the forms of, you know, what I mean, Mario plus Rabbids crossover series for that matter, and it feels like this is going pretty rough. Oh boy. Although exponentially speaking though, it's about the fact that if you do somehow manage to leave Magoland Tour at any point, then obviously about the fact that you can able to actually like, although you don't get to able to receive as many of those stamps if you manage to able to exit out the actual Merry Magoland for sure, for the actual tour's sake, but something tells me, yeah, I seem lost anyway, so. Oh, jeez. And what makes it even worse though, is that if you mess up at any point, and if you don't catch up at all, basically though it's about the fact that you have to start all over again from square one. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of repetition going on around here. And it seems that I keep on getting some very, very tricky ones for sure. So let me just keep on doing this. I don't know. I don't know if I feel about it. I think this could work. Yeah, I think this might work. So either way, let's just go ahead and try the second attempt for able to actually participating in level 3 in, you know, Megalo or Magoland Tour. So, but yeah, that's why I can really talk about the forms of Rabbids Invasion basically while looking back. After 10 years since when it first came out, I think it used to be on the forms of Nicktoons, if I recall, but ever since then, whenever I haven't exactly watched that particular series for a very long time, it's hard for me to able to actually watch certain TV series these days, especially noticeable because we're still waiting for, you know, Sonic Prime 3rd series for that matter, or the 3rd season at some point by the end of this year if possible, and on top of all that stuff though, with any other like films I was really looking forward to seeing in the future. Like, for instance, the Marvels, which I know for a fact that there's a lot of, like, dislike aspect ratio all of a sudden when it comes to films of the Marvels anyway. So I honestly have no idea of why they're able to actually try to do something like that. Oh, and on top of that, of course, how could I even mention about the films of not only Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, but also during the films of next year for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So that'll be exciting moments as far as this is concerned. But again, if you missed the actual, you know, target, as you can tell, what King Dedede just did, obviously that the thing just continues on, so... Oh, nice. Sometimes I have to concentrate hard, especially noticeable, because I get the strong feeling that in another one of those missions I have to do, that I have to get 8 bullseyes in a row, so that could be quite of a challenge. So, it looks like we're not doing too bad. Oh god. Oh, nice. Oh, so close to get a bullseye though. Alright, final target, here we go. Let's see what this is going to be brings us to. Holy Christ, it's Pac-Man! I can't believe the target just somehow turned into a Pac-Man shape. But at the very least, I did somehow go a bullseye at the end, so that's actually pretty swell. Almost perfect, but regardless of such though, that's actually super top notch. If only if I could have got the other 2 bullseyes, then I could have able to actually possibly make my way to 2,000 or so points, which I have did done when I played this on my own time, when I first experienced that. So that's pretty incredible if you ask me. So anyways, let's go back into Megalore's home trackers again. So exponentially speaking though, that will be totally be the case. So oh yeah, there's also another presentation is about to be up during at some point in today actually. And that's what appears to be by the films of Devolver Digital will be hosting a new Devolver delayed showcase. And what do I mean by that though? Is that apparently though, as far as for that particular title of that particular event applies, is that Devolver Digital will be highlighting certain games that might have been to be delayed at some point until in 2024. So either way though, this also means about the fact that you have to wait for a long time until they start to realize about the fact that we have to wait even longer until when the game finally comes out during at some point until 2024 and onwards. So pretty unusual for that particular direct types as far as, you know, based off from the third-party developers as far as I'm aware. So but either way though, that must have been said something. So anyway, and there's also another thing worth noting for, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, yes indeed, that Spider-Man 2 is definitely getting themselves the limited edition PlayStation 5 console based off from Spider-Man 2. And as a result, it does look pretty cool. Like, as a result, you get one side based off from the actual, like, I don't know, the regular Spider-Man as far as I'm aware. And if I can tell that on the other side, on the PlayStation 5 console system, they does shows us a black color, which I think that signifies Miles Morales, or possibly even maybe the forms of, I don't know, Dark Spider-Man or something like that. Mind you, I haven't exactly watched Spider-Man for quite some time, especially noticeable because, relatively speaking though, I've been busy watching a lot of stuff recently. So either way though, it seems about the fact that, wow, I'm in 4th place, which is not that good. But, at the very least, once you make your way to the final sub-game during the forms of this specific run, as you can tell, we're now on Smash Right, of course. This means about the fact that if you do manage to win, you get yourselves a double of the amount of points if you did manage to win. So, yeah, I'll try my best if I somehow succeed this. But if I don't, then this also brings us to yet another repetition I have when it comes to completing certain stuff. And yeah, this is a perfect example of why that this particular portion of the game took so long to able to actually get the actual recording capture footage set up. Especially noticeable because, like I said before, that it gets a bit more anxious at points, especially noticeable that your heart will go sink until you realize that you've lost your win streak. Imagine about this, right, is that as soon as we get into the forms of Samurai Kirby possibly for the final time, if that seems to be the case, that if you manage to lose at one point, if you're about able to try to get the 2 win streaks missions without even making a single mistake, then obviously about the fact that your heart will sink. Well, specifically also in addition to that, you also need to be able to select level 3, in some cases hard mode, and yeah, there is that one opponent I will have to address right away. That's what appears to be the Meta Knight opponent, and my god, he's actually a lot fast and quicker at the same time. And relatively speaking, though, you'll see why as soon as we're able to actually get into the other missions for the sake of the forms of this godforsaken Merry Magoland selections of missions for that matter. So, but at the very least though, I did somehow win this regardless on the forms of level 3 on you know, Magoland Tour, but this is not the final time we're going to be playing this, because, oh no, there's actually more to it than that until later on, so, but at the very least, we actually got ourselves green Kirby mask, at the very least, which, it might be seems a little bit odd to able to actually wear a different colored, Kirby mask every time whenever you manage to wear one, so, yeah, it seems kind of bizarre. And also we got ourselves a golden statue right there, based off from, I would say it's actually based off from Kirby Star Allies, because as a result that we've already got another golden statue based off from Kirby Planet Robobots, which appears to be buddy forms of Susie after all. But, relatively speaking though, it's kind of weird about the fact that they could be bothered able to actually bring us into golden statues based off from other Kirby games, like for instance with the forms of Kirby Power Paintbrush, and especially noticeable with any other like games for that matter. But anyway, though, let's just go ahead and change into Waddle Doo mask, because something tells me one of those missions in particular does need to require that particular mask to wear. And I think I'm also going on easy mode, because I'm not going to be ready for hard mode just yet. Especially noticeable during that specific point where, obviously easy and normal modes are pretty much a piece of cake. Although, if we get to 100 on the other hand, specifically Samurai Kirby 100 though, it might take me a lot of attempts, especially noticeable because one of those missions in particular, you need to go ahead and place yourself into 20th place until you realize about the fact that you can able to get some progressioning there. And yeah, this is just a lot of busy work, you know. I mean, for the most part, I can just simply do easy mode, no problem. Especially, I do need to beat down 30 rifles, which as a result, we did somehow beat them for about, I would say, 26 rifles so far. And this is going to be the 27th rifle, as far as we've already beaten down Magoland right here. Although Meta Knight in Journey forms of an easy and normal mode is not too bad. But on hard mode, on the other hand, my god, he's too fast. But either way, it looks like I'm also able to do this again, because I think I've only got 2 rifles left to knock down, so yeah. Oh yeah, and another thing too is about the fact that with that particular PlayStation 5 console based off from Spider-Man 2, that is expected to be releasing until the 1st of September, by the way, so just want to classify that. So what I'm going to do is that since I've pretty much taken down 30 rifles right now, I'm also able to take a sacrifice by just lose by King Dedede by do not press the A button at one point. So yeah, if it reaches 60 seconds, then you essentially lose basically, so oh well, no big deal, but at the very least we did somehow completed this, so now we can just leave. But yeah, we only got a couple of missions to go, folks, and yeah, we're almost there. So either way, at the very least we got one of those masks based off from Kirby Power Paintbrush, for what I've noticed. So anyway, now in terms of the forms of Kirby on the Draw, sub-game where it comes to the forms of completing certain missions, I think I'm also do that until the next video either way. That's just because about the fact that I do need to bring out my Joy-Con controllers to be able to actually make this work. especially noticeable because if I was trying to able to do this with CPU players, my god, I will get butt kicked very easily. So, anyways, let's go ahead and change into green Kirby mask this time. Like, it's almost like I've almost got illness or something like that, which I don't. So, unlike Sonic, that he currently has a sickness bug recently so far. So, it seems kind of unfortunate. Alright, here we go with Crackety Hack, just trying to win 2 wins in a row and just hope for the best, basically. So, oh, I screwed up. That's definitely not good, especially noticeable because the only thing that's kind of irritating for me though is that you can't skip this particular sequence if you manage to able to realize. Oh, and another thing too, you can't pause this particular part, so you have to mainly try to able to watch the actual crack itself until you're able to actually get yourselves a full result. So that could be pretty annoying at times. So, anyways, let's try again. It's just that I'm not very great with the actual timing aspect. Although, trying to do with the gauge is not too shabby for the most part, but it's just the actual final point is actually the toughest part. But at the very least, I did somehow succeed the first win, because for some reason, it's that certain computer players never seemed able to get all the way up to red flames, somehow. But either way, though, yeah, not perfect, but at least I managed to barely beat let's just say, King Dedede for that matter. So anyways, let's do one more attempt, and hopefully I'll try to win this, because if I lose again, then obviously there goes my destroying winning streak. So, you see what I mean about the fact that, you know what's my least favorite missions in the whole game are? Is to able to do a win streak system. So because of that, yeah, I could imagine about the fact that it might able to actually, like, in certain sub-games for that matter though, I could imagine about the fact that they might as well bruise people's fingers if they keep on getting to the actual aggressive type when it comes to likely trying to get this godforsaken win streak missions to complete, and on top of that, just anything else in general. So, but there we go, folks. That pretty much takes care of Crackety Hack, but this is not the final time we're going to be playing Crackety Hack for a long while, like I said before, because there's going to be some more missions coming up for it. So, either way, at the very least we're able to get ourselves Dark Nebula based off from Kirby's Squeak Squad. So yeah, that's actually interesting. So with that being said, I think we're also able to go ahead and end things off at this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. And that's what appears to be about the fact that we're also able to complete the final 5 missions before we move on to another selections of missions coming up, which as a result, believe me, it will take me a lot of tries to do that. So I'll see you guys until on Wednesday. Later, fellas.